I want to thank both of our speakers very much for sharing your time, sharing your experiences and expertise. And now we're going to have a very short break, and you don't have to, or please don't close the webinar. We are just going to close the audio connection, so it's going to be silent for a while, and we will ask you to give us your questions. So those partners who have live audience, they will ask the questions from the audience, and those of you who are watching the webcast, you can also write us your questions using the text chat, and we will do our best to write the questions and post it as a PowerPoint slide, and in less than 10 minutes we will invite back the first speakers to answer your questions. So now we're just going to have a very short break, and within a less than 10 minutes we will continue with the questions. Okay, welcome back from the break. Now we have posted the questions for Matti, and we're inviting Matti back to presenting. So Matti, you have lots of questions. We don't have so many time, but maybe you can choose and pick the questions you would like to answer.
Thank you. I hope that everybody hears me now. I think that if we start from the beginning, so that there was a question that I chose, or does everybody see these questions? Yes, okay. So for the first question, Germany, it is very competitive, of course, but I mean, competition you will find anywhere in any business, so there's no reason to be afraid about it. If there's competition, then there's also market, and to the market you have to go, as simple as that. The first years were financed by seed investors, and also, of course, we were doing some projects and R&D that was supported by Tekes in Finland. It's a government-owned technology development fund that is funding the companies. Beyond Europe, not at the moment. We are quite busy here. The move to Germany was supported only by the markets being here, not just any great funding or so. Yes, we were internationalized from the day one, so I have been personally living UK for in my past life and have done some business in USA, so we have been from the very beginning like born to global kind of company. I think that actually answers for the second question as well. The main challenge is, I think that the main challenge is so that you need to understand that what you are doing, so that you cannot do any business with a remote controller. You need to find a local team that takes the local responsibility, have the local connections, and does everything in the local language as well. Even though I would speak German or English or something, I don't speak the language that the farmers in Bavaria, for example, speak. So you have to have local team. That's my sort of first comment on that one. Of course, there are others, but I think that we don't have time to go through everything. Resistance or barriers introducing a new technology, just ask how much. I mean, this is typical, so that power generation companies and customers of ours in this field are not very known for being very innovative. And if you're running a company that is innovative, then you really have some hard time there. But it is just clarification after a clarification that what is needed there. Our company has a reference RC plant being part of the waste to energy plant. We are actually building now the first one in Czech Republic, so we have been working with a company called Turbogenics since 2007 on the RC technology. Turbogenics was later on being bought by a company called Calnetics. This is in Florida, USA, and later on GE bought Calnetics. So we have been there developing this product for GE, and now we are working together with them on this one. Are there any other technologies being considered in Germany? Yes, of course there are. A government is talking about windmill power production addings and so forth, but this is also a question not only about producing electricity, but it is also about the question of getting the energy efficiency high. We need to remember that European Union 2020 rules also have a target for 20% more energy efficient solutions to be used, and CHP is part of that one. So we are not saying that these all 20,000 CHPs will be just, comparing the whole nuclear power generation part. There will be others as well, and the CHPs, some of them can be like biomass boilers, they can be for example biogas plants and so forth. Natural gas, biomethane and biogas are part of this CHP that we are talking about here. I think that the biggest market there is actually the industrial CHP plants, because in Germany there are quite a lot of and very strong sort of middle enterprise area or market, and those quite often do need their own heat and power plant in order to be sufficient and sort of profitable in their businesses, and that's where we see the biggest market. I think that's enough, so I've used my time now for answering these questions.
Thank you very much, Matti. Thank you for joining the webinar. I think now we're inviting in Chris to answer the question. It will take a few moments for us to copy-paste the questions that we received for Chris. So if you just give us a half minute and we'll be ready. Okay, so we are inviting Chris back as a presenter, and we have a couple questions for you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Is there a rule as to how much funding is required to set up a JV? No, there isn't. The funding will derive very much from your business plan and what the requirements are. So if you set up a joint venture with £2 million, I beg your pardon, if you have £2 million of capital, to actually establish the legal entity itself will be very cheap. With subject to minimum capital rules which vary. I forget what they are in different continental jurisdictions, but the minimum capital required in the UK is only £1. So establishing a legal entity may be £200 or £300 or something of that sort. But the capitalization that you need will be derived very much from the profile of your business and who you will be trading with. If you are trading with people who expect to see a minimum level of capital, they want to see a substantial enterprise, then you may need millions of pounds of capital in your joint venture. If, for example, it's a services business which doesn't require much capital because all you're doing is supplying some intellectual property rights or supplying people and know-how, then the minimum of capital may be required. And the business then funds itself out of its own cash flow. So the answer to your question is you look at your business plan, you look at the cash flows that will derive from the operation, and then work back to the capital that you think you're going to require. Can I elaborate on what I mean by confirm but not establish the relationship between the parties? Yes, certainly. Perhaps by way of an example. I remember a few years ago assisting in the negotiation of a joint venture between an American party and a German party. The Germans were well-established Mittelstand businessmen. They were used to the German style of doing things in their own locality. The style was non-confrontational, very product-orientated. The Americans were financially driven, didn't know the territory, were expecting the business would be carried out in the same way as in the States as in Germany. And so they imposed a very detailed joint venture agreement on their German partners and said, all right, let's start talking. And so the whole agenda was set by reference to the legal agreement. and it simply didn't work. It simply didn't work. We had to go back, put the draft agreement away, actually start talking about the themes and principles that people needed to agree within the joint venture before coming back to the legal process. I hope that's what I mean.
Thank you very much, Chris. If my time is right, I think we have about 5 minutes time for a short break. So again, you don't have to, or please don't close the webinar. We're just closing the audio for 5 minutes, and then we begin with the session 2 at 3:20 the Central European time. So just a 5-minute break.